Alrighty, are we in? Yeah, this technical issue. So this is me. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with me, and it's so honored to be able to present the first webinar to you guys. When I was planning this webinar, I was thinking to myself, what are the absolute basics that dog owners need to know when they have their dog? And that's how I came up with these three main topics. And they are, so you see this, the name game, sit, walking on a loose leash, and we'll go over some of the equipment that are preferred to use. Now, the first one is the name game. Now, this very simple game is the foundation of many, many exercises. And why we need this is because it teaches the dog attention, focus on the handler. And actually, if you are able to just master the name game with your dog, you pretty much don't need to teach anything else, because like most of the behavior problems will be resolved just using this. Now, the number one of the name game, because I'm not sure how many of you are actually familiar with this, is that the number one rule is your dog's name is only for good things. Every time the dog hears its name, it's followed by something good. There must be no doubt at all when you call his name that, oh my gosh, something good is going to happen. Okay, it's not like, you know, when your mom calls you the last time, right? Let's say call me Angie Tan, and then Angie Tan upping my full name, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm in trouble. No, we don't want that. What we want is when the dog hears his name, it will be like, yippee, something good's going to happen. Okay, now how can we tell if this is happening with your dog? Take a look at this video, okay?
Pizza. Pizza. Pizza.
Now, that is pretty much like my reaction when people tell me there's durian. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, where is it at? Okay, this is the kind of reaction that you want your dog to have. This dog's reaction to the name Pizza, I mean, his name is not Pizza, his name is Charlie. But what's happened is every time he hears the word pizza, he probably got a slice. Okay, and so with time, actually very quickly, because he's a Goldie, he likes to eat. Probably every time he hears the word pizza, he gets a slice of pizza, and woohoo, it's a fantastic bonus day for him, right? Now, how I would like you to protect your dog's name so you get that kind of relationship is that use it only for good things. If you get upset with your dog, call it something else, okay? I mean, we all get upset with our dogs, you know, at one point or another. It's what you do when you're upset that matters. So if you're really upset with your dog, don't call it its name, please. Just call it something else. You can call him oi, you can call him hey, okay, or you can call him a naughty boy, okay, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just for you to let out steam, and don't expect the dog to respond to you at all, okay? Now, so the next thing that you need to do is also,
Window.
Okay, sorry, okay. All right, back to this. Now, the next thing you need to do is, if you need to call your dog to do something nasty, let's say he doesn't like baths, he doesn't like to have his nails cut, please don't call your dog to you and then grab it and go to the bathroom to shower or to cut his nails, because I can guarantee you the next time you call the dog, he's not going to come. Okay, so if that's the case, go and get the dog instead, you know, so he doesn't associate the name with bad things. So you need to protect it. You need to actively protect it. And family with kids, I feel you, because I have 2 kids and they will call Truffles, so he's my dog, 101 times a day. So I'm just constantly reminding them, don't call him. I mean, they're starting to get the message now, but I have to give them an alternative. So, or I teach them, look, if you call Truffles, you have to pet him. If he likes pets, if he comes to you, give him a treat. So slowly, they're understanding that. Another option is to tell the kids to call the dog something else, and then you have a special name for the dog that is your recall name. Okay, so your dog has two names. So maybe, so Truffles could be just Truffles when I call him, and then the kids could be calling him, what do you call him? They call him Truffle Boy or something like that, or even just how they call it makes a big difference. And he kind of like responds like, oh, okay, it's just a kiss, whatever. When I call him, he's like, yeah, okay, good stuff's happening. All right. Now, this little clip of 3 dogs, which you'll see in a short while, is actually this. I did a session with them last year. It's a multiple dog household, and they're a little bit all over the place. But the first thing that I did with them was to teach them the name game, because I want the dogs to pay attention to the handler. Because if you can't get the dog's attention, you can forget about doing anything else. So this is like the basic foundation work. And this is what it looks like. Bento. Hi. Bella. Nice. Okay, let's go. Not your turn, Charlie. Charlie. Okay, so this is just a training session. So they haven't quite figured out yet, but they're just thinking like, oh, I hear her call, so I better turn back. All right, so they haven't actually really figured out that their name is what's going to get them rewarded. They're just turning in the hopes that, oh, yes, I'm going to get rewarded this time. It's okay, all right? I call Charlie and Charlie turns, I'll give him a treat. If Bento turns when I call Charlie, he doesn't get anything, all right? And he's going like, okay, it's Charlie, it's not me, only Bento, all right? And it's just through practice. It's just through practice. And if you can do it with 3 dogs, you can do it with your 1 dog. Now, how do we get this? How do we get this, or rather, how can you get this with your dog? Okay, it's all tongue twisted. Now, this is how you do it. You hold 2 or 3 pieces of food in your hand. It can be treats, it can be your dog's food, it can be kibble. Call your dog's name once, okay? Don't nag, all right? Don't nag. Just call once, pause, and in the moment the dog looks at you, you give it 1 piece of food. Then you wait for the dog to look away, and then you repeat it again. The dog doesn't have to come to you. Initially, when you're first starting, especially if you had the dog for a while, so which means the dog has actually learned to ignore you quite a bit, right? Sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer. Okay, puppies are a little bit easier because they haven't had that history, okay, with you. They haven't learned to ignore you. So normally when you say anything, they'll just turn and look at you anyway. So puppies are a little bit easier. But if you have had your dog for a little while, sometimes they have learned to ignore you. So if you do that, you need to remind yourself, don't nag, don't nag. Just call it once and then just keep quiet, okay? Just keep quiet. Wait for the dog to look at you, and then you hand over the piece of food. The piece of food, right, don't have to be very big. You can use it during your dog's meals. Okay, let's say if your dog really likes to eat, is really looking forward to his meal times, take some of his food and use that to train, okay? And you just, let's say your dog eats twice a day, you've got 2 training sessions just like that. And it's fun for you, it's fun for the dog, okay? Now, the dog's name is a signal to pay attention to you. Like I said again, don't nag, don't nag, don't nag, okay? That is this is the most important thing, just don't nag. If you got 2 times and no reaction, go and get the dog. Best if you practice at home first in a quiet environment, so you're not fighting with the kids running in the playground, you're not fighting with the cat that's walking by, or the little Shih Tzu that's walking past, okay? So practice in a quiet environment where there's literally nothing, it's just you and the dog. So you are the most exciting thing in the room, okay? Surely you can get the dog to pay attention to you, all right? If for whatever reason the dog just looks at you, doesn't respond, you say, oh, it's just owners again. change your body position. Okay, get down low. Okay, be a bit more animated. Just don't repeat this name. You can go, hey, hey, okay, or puppy, puppy. Just don't call the name again. All right. It's quite fun actually. And then once they get used to playing with you in a room, sometimes I get other family members involved, and we do like hide and seek in different rooms. So maybe mommy is in bedroom, daddy's in the kitchen, kids in the living room, and we make the dog, we call the dog and to look for the person that's calling. So they get exercise. It's a family bonding activity. And there's nothing that can go wrong with it, right? Okay. But when you take it out to a more exciting environment, let's say outside, okay, let's say your dog has nailed this. You can do it in the house, you can look for you, and it's really, really good. And then you take it to the park. And sometimes clients, they come tell me, oh, but my dog doesn't respond in the park. Okay, but he did so well at home. How come like that? Why is he so stubborn, you know? No, it's just that dogs are very specific. So when you train in a location, okay, let's say the name game at home, it's the name game at home, okay? He has no clue that it generalizes to the outside. So when you take it outside to the park, you start right from the basic again. You have him on a leash and you just call his name once and you wait for him to turn, and then you feed him. At home, he can probably run to you like from like 5 meters away. Don't expect the same kind of results outside. You need to retrain it outside and every new location that you go to, okay? Now, and what you'll see next is a couple of clips from my classes, okay? Yeah, this is Chewy. I think this was a couple of lessons in. She was a very skittish Singapore special and just had, you know, just like a regular puppy, didn't know what was happening. This is what we have so far. Okay, I've added a little bit something different for Chewy as well. I added in a collar grab because being a Singapore special and she was a little skittish, I wanted her to know that hands reaching for her was a good thing. I'm sure you've all had your cases where you call a dog to you, the moment you reach out and they do the, oh, shy away or they run away, okay, because you know, oh, playtime's over. No, so I want to retrain that in the dog's mind. I want them to know that, look, it's okay. I call you, you come to me, I hold your collar, you get a treat. And then guess what? You get to go and play again, all right? So it just takes a couple of times and then the dogs be like, oh, wow, okay, I like this game, okay? And you saw how happy she was, how Chewy was just bounding along and she was really, really excited about this game. And this is quite huge as well because we are in a strange place. She is in a strange place, not we are a strange place. She is in a different environment from her usual, but she's comfortable enough and she's happy enough with this game to want to do it, okay? So what is this big deal that I keep going on about, you know, the name game? One is the recall. So you've seen how Chewy comes bounding when you call her, right? Okay, but this is just her alone with the two owners. Now I'm going to show you another clip where you can see how this name game is taken to the next level, where the dogs are doing their recalls with other dogs around. Okay, let's see. Here we go. All right. And you've seen how these two puppies do their recall with a Bedlington Terrier. The owner is very big and very expressive, and there is no doubt because this dog is also very high. It's very excitable. It's just really active. It's always very ready to go. So the owner is likely same. Okay, hey, look at me, okay? And the dog came bounding from across the room, even though there were two other dogs there. And then the little Maltipoo, she's smaller and she's quieter. And I'm not sure if you saw, but the owner also waited till there was a little bit of a break in the action. Then she called the dog, okay? She's not going to try to compete when there's something else that's happening, because then what's going on is she's going to learn, she doesn't want the dog to ignore her. All right, so the both owners have done their best to increase the chances of their dog responding to them. So you guys as owners, you have to make sure that when you call your dog, you have a very high chance of the dog responding, okay? Don't call the dog to test the dog, because that is a sure way of getting the dog to ignore you, okay? And this is another, remember the three little dogs that I showed you just now? So the name game, the reason we taught the name game was for this. Little Bento had an issue with reactivity. When he saw other dogs, he gets really excited. When he gets excited, then his other two siblings get really excited and just impossible to walk them. So I used the name game to help with this issue that they're facing, okay? Here we go. Wow, look at you guys. Okay, now that didn't happen overnight, okay? Don't let the video fool you. It took hours of repetition, a lot of repetition, a lot of exercises, but it is very workable. There was no force required. There was no punishment required. Now, if you're attempting to do this with your dog, let's say if you have a reactive dog, a dog that reacts to cars or children or other dogs, you can use this thing, the name game, as well to help you with it. But please keep in mind the threshold levels. Okay, a threshold level is basically, you don't want to go so close to the trigger, let's say the other dog or whatever it is that causes your dog to go a bit crazy. You need to be far enough away that the dog, when he sees it, okay, I see it, but he hasn't gone too excited yet. He can still listen to you, okay? And then over time, over several sessions, you go closer and closer to the trigger. You reduce the session, okay? Now, and I think this is time for our first poll. Before we go on to the next session, we'll just take a couple of seconds. And if you can help me fill up your answers, and then we can continue on to the next session. You can answer more than one for this poll. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions later on as well. Meat jerky, surprise, surprise. Fruit and vegetables, biscuits next, and then fruit and vegetables, and cheese, only 10%. I would have thought cheese would be more. Okay, that is pretty cool. And now, what a reason why I asked this as well, because you actually require a lot of treats when you're treating the dog. Usually at home, when I'm just training in a not very exciting environment, I use the dog's ration. So I just use the normal meals. But when you're outside, when you're trying to compete, let's say for bento, compete with another dog, I increase the value of the treat. So I will find out what is it that this dog like. Some dogs like veggies, some dogs like apples. I had one dog who will work for water. Okay, whatever rocks his boat, yeah. Okay, now let's go on next. We are going to be running a bit behind. Now, sit happens. This is what my next topic, my next session is about, sit. It is very likely one of the first things that most people will ask, not even will ask their dog to do. Actually, sometimes people will go up to dogs they don't know and ask them to sit as well. And I'm always quite amazed because it's like, maybe the dog doesn't understand English, you know. So how do you get a really good sit? Sit, there's two kinds of sit. There's what you call the auto sit, where you don't say anything, where you just wait, okay? Literally, you don't say anything, you don't do anything, you just sit, you just stand and you wait for the behavior you want. When that happens, the good thing happens, okay? It's the easiest to teach. Anyone can teach this to a dog. I get my kids to do it, you know, the old granny can do it, anybody, okay? Even people who don't like dogs or who don't want to, say, touch the dogs, they can do it too, okay? Now, just waiting, but waiting is very hard for some people. Anyway, have a look at the following clips and you'll see what I mean, how easy it is. This is a Ted, a poodle puppy. He wants to get out of his playpen. How do I do it? Okay, the reason the owner closed because he hasn't given the release word yet. So let's try again. Okay, the owner says okay.
Okay.
There, okay. So this little puppy, he's usually just a bum on the floor and open. So he's had a bit of practice. So he's sitting and he's waiting for the release word. So it wasn't enough that he sat. So there's a really polite puppy. And the way to teach it was literally all they did was stand and wait. Okay, the moment the puppy, or you saw a moment he got up, just close the door again. And then he's like, okay, I sit, okay. Now, the next video I'm going to show you, this is a SPCA puppy. This was taken just last week. And actually I've only just met him like 5 minutes before we took this video. But because of the dedicated SPCA dog walkers that we have, they've been spending time with the dogs and they know what to do with the dogs. This puppy has already caught on that, oh, when people walk by the shelter and I want to go out or I want a treat, I sit instead of jumping like a crazy idiot, okay? So let's see what this little guy can do. Yeah, Rolfie is just amazing, so cool. Okay, good. Let's go. Okay. Okay. And all we did was sit, and all we did was to wait. You can do this very easily. Let's say when you're coming home and your dog is jumping at the gate, right? Really excited to see you. You don't go in. You just stand at the gate and you just wait. Okay, because one of the things that we hear from clients as well is that, oh, when I come in, the dog keeps jumping on me. It's dirtying my clothes. So teach the dog to wait and just stand and wait. The moment it sits, you open the door. If you reach for the gate and he gets up again, you close the door. The first couple of times you probably have to do it like, if it will feel like forever, but honestly it's actually very fast. If you actually time it, it just feels long, but it actually won't take that long, okay? And it is fun to do, and I enjoy doing it because you literally see the light bulb going, they're off in the head. You're like, oh, my butt on the floor, I get the human to do something. All right, it's quite funny. Now, the next kind of sit is called the cute sit. Okay, not cute, the cue sit, meaning when I ask the dog for the behavior. So the auto sit or sit happens, easy to remember, right, is when the dog is offering me the behavior. Okay, this one, I am asking the dog to give me the behavior, all right? When you're trying to teach this, think of it, there's two types. One is with the hand signal and one is the verbal command. Now, dogs are body language experts. They don't understand English. They look like they do, okay? Eventually, most of them catch on, like certain words sound like, you know, mean certain things, but most of the time, they don't understand, okay? So I normally teach with body language first, and then I add in the verbal. And the word, it can be any word. It doesn't have to be sit. I mean, you can say banana and then the dog will sit. You can totally train it like that, all right? And sometimes say, oh, my dog only understands Hokkien. Fine, okay, it doesn't matter. Or my dog only understands Japanese. It's all right. The dog has no clue what you're saying, but he just knows that every time he hears that particular phrase or word, it means something, right? Let's see. Now this clip is little Sapphire. She is a 2-month-old Singapore Special. Same thing, I took this video last week and I only met this dog like 5 minutes before. So we didn't have very much rapport, and I didn't want to use her name because one, she might not be going home with that name. So I don't want her to associate her name too strongly because the new owners might want to train her to a different name. So I don't call her, and I would like you to watch how I'm doing this with her. She is brand new to it. She has no clue what I want. She has no clue what sit means. I don't say very much to her, okay? Use mostly body language. And because she's so new, I do the training sessions very short. She just do 2 or 3 reps and then off she goes. Okay, here we go. She's just learning to sit. Good job, yay! Nice. Yeah, it helps that little puppies are hungry. Yeah, nice, good job. Great. And off she runs to see what's going on, exploring. I let her be. Puppies have short attention spans. She's like ready to walk again. Look at that. Oh, and she's ready to run and to do it again. Okay, so you saw how I did it at her pace. Okay, she has an equal say in the training session. It's not just me saying, hey, you sit down and you teach and you learn something now. It's a give and take. Okay, I'm letting her see, smell all the new smells, all the sounds. And when she's ready, I was like, okay, she's checked this out, then she's ready to walk again. And you saw the second part, she was ready to do more. Okay, I didn't ask her to sit, I didn't ask her to come to me, but she was like, okay, I want to do more, lady. All right, and then we did. Okay, so keep the sessions short. I prefer you when you're working with your dog, keep it short but frequent as opposed to one long one. All right. If you feel yourself feeling frustrated at any point, you're like, oh my gosh, this is, then stop. All right, don't push it through. Just have a breather, go have a cup of tea, take a break, and then come back and start again. Because when you're tense, the dogs pick up on it as well, or your voice gets a bit louder, a bit more harsh, your body language get a bit more threatening, and then the dog be like, I don't like this lady anymore. Okay, so remember, they read body language really well. So if you keep your body language welcoming and happy, the dogs will pick up on it and they're happy to learn. It's just like imagine when you are in school, right? You have the strict school teacher or more friendly school teacher. We all learn better when we're having fun. This is my biggest thing, okay? Now the next clip is, yeah, this one. These are the SPCA corporate volunteers, meaning corporate volunteers is this program where companies send their staff down for a day, half a day of CSR. There's a corporate social responsibility, which means they come and do good works. They help us out. The sessions have been suspended temporarily because of COVID. So this was last year. And this puppy actually kind of knows sit already, and we're actually working on down. So we've taught the volunteers how to do it, okay? And you can see the hand signal for sit for this puppy is a little bit different from how I was teaching Sapphire, okay? Sapphire was very close and I was just literally stuck to her nose and just getting her to go up. How this lady is doing the sit, you'll find is actually this, like a weight lifting up, the movement up, okay? It's not the end station, which is the signal, it's actually the movement up, which is the signal for sit, okay? Now have a quick look. And she's also doing down as well, and you'll see in a minute. Yeah, between the paws, aim for between the legs. Yeah, that's it. Good job. All right, so you saw the sit and we did it down. So yeah, volunteers are so important to the shelter. They help us in so many ways. Even just by being there, even if they don't do anything, but it allows the puppies to be socialized, to smell different people, to see different types of people wearing hats, people wearing glasses, with bum bags, so we love volunteers at the SPCA, okay? And now, we are going on to the next session, and we can have the second poll. Okay, just give you time to process what I've just said. A lot of things. Yeah. So this one, I am my dog's mama, papa, or owner. I'm very curious because sometimes, right, I refer the dog's owners as or go to mommy, go to daddy, and then some of them like, no, I'm just the owner, okay? Although most of them they say, oh yeah, okay, come to mommy. Yeah, so I'm very curious, what do you guys think? Yeah, Truffles, I am, yeah, mommy to Truffles as well, and to the kids. And what other ways how do you refer yourself to? I'm very curious. Yes, mama and papa. Yeah, just say, yeah, it's nice. I mean, I do appreciate the relationship that we have with our pets now. It's a little bit different from before. For me anyway, I don't feel it as a master. I master you, dog, or I'm the boss, you're the dog. It's more of a cooperation, and in a way, I feel like I am the dog's parent because I'm guiding it, teaching it, the things that I wanted to learn. So that's I think it's quite appropriate. Now, loose leash walking. This is another thing which actually is quite a common problem that I see with owners as well. Now, before I continue, I would like to emphasize that the dog does not have to be walking on your left all the time. Okay, the dog can walk in front of you, behind you, on the right, on the left. It doesn't matter. Okay, as long as it's not pulling your arm off, there is no tension on the leash. And please allow your dog to sniff. Okay, we all check our Facebook, our Instagram. Okay, we catch it on social media. Allow your dog to do the same. Okay, they get so much information on all these sniffy walks, and it's also a form of stress relief for them. It is much better to go for one round around the park, a leisurely walk. You let the dog sniff rather than just a really one brisk walk around the park and say, okay, walk is done. then I might as well don't walk, because it doesn't accomplish anything. You're just being very stressed with the dog. The dog is not enjoying itself. The one time that is out, not in the house, it is being pulled along by you. It's not fun. It doesn't get to sniff. All right. Now, how do we teach loose leash walking? Oh wait, before that, the heeling, walking on the left, usually most people will do that, say, for the show ring, and that's only like a couple of seconds. Okay, we don't go for the whole walk for the heel. So you can teach the dog to walk heel on heel, walking nicely by your side, but it is not for all walks. It is just for a very short period of time. So let's say there's a crowd of people and you need the dog to stay close to you, then you say heel. Okay, 5 minutes later, okay, or even like a couple of minutes later, the dog can have a bit more freedom again. Okay, but please don't go for the entire 15-minute walk on a heel. That is not fun for the dog. It's not fun for you. Okay. Now, how do we teach loose leash walking? The best way to teach loose leash walking is actually without the leash. Haha, yeah, where's Angie is going crazy. Okay, no, it's just that if you don't have the leash, okay, you are concentrating on the, let's say, the relationship with you and the dog. The dog actually wants to be with you, okay? The dog actually wants to walk with you, and not because it has to walk with you, all right? And so the leash ends up just becoming a safety device, just in case it gets spooked. But the rest of the time, the dog is walking nicely next to you because, hey, you're my human, I want to walk with you, all right? Let's see. Now, I'm going to show you, okay, so there's no tension in the leash. That's what I just mentioned. Ahead of you, behind you, next to you, doesn't matter. Okay, whatever your preference is. Okay. Yeah, you don't use it to administer punishment. You don't use it to deliver correction. You don't jerk it. You don't, no leash pop. Hitting the dog with the leash. I've seen that. I'm like, what on earth? It is not used to pull the dog into position. I'm sure you've seen people with the dogs walking and they're walking like that. The dog's walking like this. Okay, I was like, oh my goodness. No, the dog is, the leash is just a safety device. All right, please don't use it to jerk, pop, hit, hang, whatever. Okay, it is just there. Now, this is little Muji. Muji, you can see he's a big dog and he's got a pulling problem. He had a pulling issue. For big dogs, that is quite problematic because he's very powerful. This is one of the first lessons that we did with him, how we introduced loose leash walking. And I would like you to see the rate of reinforcement, basically how often the owner is treating him. And I want you to see his body language, okay? Right, that was particularly exciting because off the screen you can't see it was actually where all the other two dogs were. Like he chose to stick with the owner, which is why I was like, oh my gosh, amazing Muji. All right, you can see his tail is up, he's trotting, he's happy. Okay, he saw, oh, the other two dogs there. Okay, it's okay. I prefer to stick with my human. All right, because she was more interesting. She was treating him every single step. Okay, now before you worry and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up with a fat dog. Don't worry. Okay, I'll show you a clip taken a few weeks later, a couple of weeks later. And we have weaned the treats down, the rate of reinforcement down, because he's practiced it so much. It's actually just one treat for one whole circle. Okay, but we needed a very high rate of reinforcement initially to get his attention. And then once he's learned that, we can slowly taper it down. Okay, here we go. And now we've also introduced the leash, but the leash is loose, and you can see it's just there. He can't even be bothered with the leash. Before that, he would pull, he'll buck, you know, it'll just be like trying to walk a wild horse. Yeah, the second one, there's nothing, it was just his helping this. Okay, and you see his attention. He's always checking in with her. Okay, this is lovely. It's always lovely to see the dogs giving attention to the owners, right? Now, do you remember Rufi from earlier where he sat very promptly and just waiting for the leash and collar to be put on, and then he walked out? I took him out and we did a bit of loose leash walking as well. Now, I'd like you to notice again, I don't say very much to him. I let him take the lead, and because he's a puppy, he's in a shelter, and also because on the floor there was some cat food which I didn't notice. I just removed it and I let him explore, smell. Then we continued. Then we started the walk. Okay. Right. It's a very slow walk and very short. Yeah, and because it's a little bit quieter than Sapphire, my body language is also a little bit quieter. I'm not talking to him as much. Sit. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so he was willing to eat as well, even though he's outside. So if he didn't eat, then I know that he's a little bit stressed. But he was still happy to eat. He was taking the time to check things out. Very, very nice. Okay, and the leash, you notice, mostly loose all the time, no tension. And so he's slowly associating that, oh, leash means good things. Leash means I get to go out. Leash doesn't mean pain, because there's some dogs where they get quite neck sensitive if they have been treated quite harshly before. If they've been given leash jerks, they don't like it when people touch their necks or when they see the leash. Okay, so no tension on the leash. If we have another example, this is a Dalmatian puppy, and he's a little bit more active. You can see how it is. Just another example of walking by the side. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, he's eating his breakfast while walking. Sorry, the rustling sound was actually the plastic bag. Okay, and now it's time for, wow, just in time, for the last poll. The third and last poll, and then we'll touch on the last topic that we have, which is equipment. Does your dog sleep in bed with you? Yes, no, sometimes. And it's quite interesting because we get quite a variety of responses from owners. Let's see. Yeah, some people prefer to have their dog in bed with them, some don't. And the answer, no. Okay. And sometimes, yeah, I'm very curious about it sometimes. Why does it mean sometimes? Having said that, there is no right or wrong. It's whether or not it bothers you. And I know that some people will say, no, you cannot have the dog in bed with you. No, the dogs are not allowed on couches. It doesn't matter. Okay, it honestly doesn't matter. If the dog has got no issues, no resource guarding issues, and if you are okay with it, I'm okay with it. Okay, the dog is not trying to dominate you. The dog is not trying to be alpha with you. It's a comfortable spot. Of course, he'll want to sleep on the bed with you. Okay, if for whatever reason, say if you don't like to have dog hair in your bed, give your dog his own bed, all right? And that's all there is to it. Now, give your dog a comfortable place to sleep, and they're less likely to want to climb into bed with you. Now, if you bring in a new dog into your house, let's say a puppy or adopted a dog, but make sure the rules are very clear from the start. If you allow the dog, you allow the dog. If you don't allow the dog, then everybody has to agree to not allow the dog on the bed. So the sometimes part is a little bit problematic because dogs are not able to discern, like, oh, how come today I can, but I can't do it tomorrow. So be very sure that if you're okay with dog on your bed, you're okay with dog on the bed. So for young couples, sometimes I will tell them to think ahead. Let's say, what if you have a baby in the future, is it okay that the dog is on the bed? And then they're like, oh, actually, maybe not. All right, then don't have the dog on the bed in the first place, because it's not very fair to allow the dog on the bed and then halfway you change your mind and the dog will be wondering what's going on, okay? Worst case, they're just like, okay, whatever, I'll stay on my own bed. Best case scenario, they just stay on their own bed. Worst case is if they think that they have been kicked off something comfortable because of the arrival of the child, then you have a whole lot of other issues. All right, we have 10 minutes. Okay, I will run through the next one very quickly. I've talked a lot. Preferred equipment. Okay, what I've touched about briefly is equipment and how to introduce it to your dog. Now, this is my preferred list of equipment, okay? Fixed leash, okay? Fixed leash is, you can see, okay, fixed leash, not the retractable ones. We have the martingale, the flat collar, harnesses, and different types of harnesses. If you'll join me in the next webinar, I will talk a bit about all the different types of harnesses, because they all have their different uses. It's not just because it's pretty. Treat pouches. Treat pouches are amazing. Okay, they are actually one of the most important tools. I mean, you don't have to have a dedicated treat pouch. You can just get a bum bag, or you can put it in a Ziploc bag in your pocket. Yeah, but just be prepared to have food on you most of the time while you are training the dog, and then gradually you'll wean it off it. On the right, in the middle, you see the dog with the head collar. Okay, it looks like a muzzle. It's not a muzzle, but it works on the same principle as the horse halter. Okay, where the head goes, the body goes. This one, you need to have a little bit of a skill to use it. But for, let's say there's very big disparity in size. Let's say you have a very big, strong dog and you have a little person who is a little bit smaller, or maybe an elderly person, I would put the dog on a head collar because it's safer for both parties. You don't require as much force or as much strength to hold on to the dog. These are absolute no-nos, okay? Prong collars, shock collars, they all have no place in dog training. The retractable leash doesn't cause as much harm, but it can be quite dangerous in that if you're not careful, you can have rope burns, or you're actually teaching the dog to pull on the retractable. You can use it, but in very specific circumstances. So, but my preferred choice is don't use the retractable, use a long line instead. Shock collars, pain has got no place in training, coercion has got no place in training, and I'm so glad the SPCA is advocating for a ban on such devices. You know, if you see anyone using it, let them know there are other ways to train a dog, okay? Yeah, so we have seen so much fallout using aversive training. It's quite sad sometimes, okay? Now, harnesses, a very quickly one. Harnesses is one of my preferred ways, especially for little dogs, especially for big dogs sometimes, especially when they pull a lot. Here we have Burrito. He was at the SPCA. Happily, he's been adopted already. And I will demonstrate, you'll see how I put the harness on him, okay? He didn't want to take treats because I was very new to him. So he was like, I don't know you, lady, okay? And so he wasn't very happy with, he wouldn't take treats from me, but he was okay with being by me, all right? Notice my body position from him. I am on his side, so I can slip it over his head. I'm not facing him straight up, okay? And you'll see why. Okay, this is a really cool harness. Okay. Yeah, he was attached to the collar, so I'm just switching it to the buckle. And off we go. All right. Harnesses are great because they take pressure off the neck. Yeah. And this one I'm using on a back clip. You can actually use it on a front clip as well if you have a dog that pulls a lot. Burrito doesn't pull very much, so which is why his leash is on the back. Yeah, and you can change from the back clip to the front clip. The front clip, you'll see if he pulls a lot, he will actually just end up looking at me, but he doesn't pull. So this is something to consider if your dog is a puller. Okay. And right on time. Okay. The key is not how do I stop this behavior problem? The question is, what do I want the animal to do instead? Okay. A large part of positive reinforcement training is actually not looking at the problem behavior and see how do I stop this? Because when you say, how do I stop this? You tend to want to correct it, which means punishment. But I would rather just ignore or teach an incompatible behavior and teach a dog what to do instead. A lot of times the issues that arise is because the dog has not been taught or shown what is acceptable behavior that you want instead. And usually most of the time, once you've taught them, so for example, jumping up on you, teach him to sit. He can't jump on me, and then to say hi to you, I sit. That's how it works. Yeah. And we've come to the end of today's webinar with 10 minutes, so we have time for Q&A. It is an honor to speak to you guys. I hope you have lots of questions for me.
Thank you very much, Angie. That was a really informative session. There are a lot of questions for you. Nearly 60 plus questions. So let's get right to it. Thank you everybody again for coming this morning. So we have about half an hour left. We're going till 12:30. Just over half an hour. Let's see what we can get through. We'll try our best to answer as many questions as we can. Some of them we will lump up because they are similar questions. And then if we don't get to your questions, there are actually still another 5 odd webinars coming up that you can ask some of your questions there. But let's get right to it, Angie.
Yep.
So a question that's actually come up quite a few times, I thank everybody for asking that, is you've talked quite a bit about using treats. Sometimes you've said you use the animal's food itself, the meal, like kibble for training. So a few have asked that their dog is actually, they're saying the dog is not food motivated. In that scenario, what should they do?
I see. All dogs need to eat. All living things need to eat. And oftentimes when I say that dog's not food motivated, we look not just at the food. So what's happened is we get quite often, oh, the dog doesn't want to eat this, so we change the brand of food, we change the kibble, we change the chicken, and you keep changing it, right? So what we've actually done is we've taught the dog to be fussy, all right? We've taught the dog, say, okay, you don't eat today, it's okay, tomorrow I will add in roast chicken, okay? So the dog has like, I'm not going to eat today because I don't like this, I'll wait for tomorrow. So before you actually start with training, make sure you're able to get the dog to eat that wants to eat first. Okay, so and how you do that, let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to feed you kibble and mixed chicken, fine. You put it down for maximum 15 minutes. If the dog doesn't eat it, take it away. All right, gets nothing, no treats, no snacks, nothing until the next meal time. Again, you put it down. If it doesn't eat, you take it away. Okay, usually by the next day, they will eat. It also depends on how long this behavior has been going on. So let's say you've had your dog for quite a while now and you've been dealing with this fussy problem quite a while, you have a lot longer to go because the dog has trained you to keep changing its food, right? And so now he's going to be expecting you, I don't want this today, I'll wait for mommy to change tomorrow. Usually dogs can go without food. If your dog is healthy, not elderly, not sick, nothing, 2 or 3 days without food, they're okay. No dog will knowingly starve themselves. Okay. If by the third day they're still not eating, which is very, very unlikely, then reach out to me, or you can feed it half its food first, or you train at home. Okay, but you have to stop switching the food. That's how my dog is not food motivated, because the dog is so used to not working for its food and it's being presented there that it's not going to work for it at all. There's no value in the food. Our dogs have got very good lives, but we need to understand that they are also animals, they're living things. They need to work for their food. They need to work for something. Otherwise, there's just no meaning in their life. They just lay around. So if your dog is not food motivated, start with fixing the meal times first. Okay. Now, if your dog is still eating and it's okay, then you can switch to higher value treats when you're outside. So let's say your dog eats kibble at home, you can switch to chicken when it's outside. Okay, but preferably I tend to keep to the meals as it is. So fix the meals and then you can get on to training. This is kind of training as well. What you don't want to do is withhold water. Water should always be available.
All right, thank you. The next question, it's got a lot of votes, and again, a lot of similar questions. I try to lump a few of them together. The question states that, so the dog is barking at strangers when they walk past the door. So the question is, how does the name game help? Should they call the name when the dog barks at someone? And there's a few other questions similar. This one is at home. There are a few other questions, people asking, say, when they're out on walks, the dog is barking at other dogs. The dog is barking at motorcycles, at other things that's happening. So we're talking here about a dog that's just reacting at different stimuli, and maybe it's barking and lunging at it and going a bit out of control. What is your general advice for that whole scenario?
Okay, the very first thing to do actually is, my question is, how often does this dog get to go out? Are the basic needs met? If you take your dog out like once a week, don't be surprised the dog goes a bit berserk when it's outside, because like, oh my goodness, there's so many things going on. I've never seen a dog in my life. I've never seen a cat. I've only seen a car. Okay, but you need to figure out, you need to make sure the dog's basic needs are met, meaning it's gone out for regular exercise twice a day, or at least, or 3 times a day. Go to different places, you know, it's got adequately fed, it's got mental enrichment, it's got physical enrichment. If you've done all that and it's still reacting, then it's time to up it a little bit. You play the name game at home first with no distraction, right? When you call the dog and you've got quite a good reliability when it's at home, there's nothing distracting, then you take it onto the road. So like how I did with the 3 dogs is, when I'm walking them, I'm not just walking them and just like checking on my phone. I'm walking and I'm looking ahead. I say, oh, there's a dog that's coming up like 10 meters away. I am ready. All right. I will call the dog, sees the dog, but before he reacts, I'm calling him before he goes into the barking crazy mode. Okay. Before he flips over into the emotional side. So I get him to look at me and I treat him. All right. The timing is super important here. You need to watch your dog, and you need to scan your surroundings. If let's say you're in no mood to have to do this all the time, then you take your dog out for walks when it's not so crowded. Okay, you need to modify the environment. You say, okay, today I really don't want to do any training. Okay, I'll wait till I know it's off-peak time and there are not so many people out. Then I'll take the dog out. Okay, and then I'll train a bit outside, and then when I feel more up to it, as in when the owner is more up to it, then okay, now it's training time. I'm going to be walking and I'm going to be scanning ahead to see what triggers there are. Okay, so you need to manage the environment as well. But the very, very first thing, make sure the dog's basic needs are met. Does it have enough toys at home? Are you playing enough games with the dog? Is the dog going out regularly? Regularly is the important one.
Thank you, Angie. The next one again, and there's been a few similar questions. So this is about what you were talking before about loose leash walking. So some people are saying that they are having challenges walking their dogs where the dog is pulling and dragging them instead of walking at the human's pace. So, and I think this could be with regard to the dog trying to chase something, but also it could just be the dog even there's no, nothing around to chase the dog, it's still just going in their own direction, and the human is left in the dog.
Yeah, it does happen.
Very common to see this in parks and and out there. Yeah, how do you address this?
Okay, so assuming the dog is going out regularly, okay, all the basic needs are met, and it's still pulling like crazy when you go out, check your leash. Is your leash too short? Okay, my preferred length of leash is at least 1.5 to 2 meters. It's quite ironic because most people say, oh, but then the longer the leash, the more it will pull. I said, no, actually, the longer the leash, the less likely it will pull because you're not giving it anything to pull against. Plus, if you have a little dog, I don't know why they sell the leashes are so short, like 1.2 short. And the dogs are tiny, they're low to the ground, right? If you have a very tall person, by the time the leash hits, the dog is like already like this, and he has got no space to walk. So get a longer leash, hold the excess in your hand. Don't use the retractable. The retractable, because how it works, right? The dog has to pull and then, oh, I get extra length, right? So you are teaching your dog to pull. All right, so let's say the dog goes out regularly, you have a good length of leash. The next one is to make sure that you are not pulling against the dog. You are not giving the dog a chance to pull you. I will try my best to explain how this works. Oftentimes, owners get a bit anxious, all right, a little bit kanchong when they're walking the dog, and they hold on to the leash very tight, and then the dog is walking like this. So there's already tension. So of course the dog's going to pull. And dog has something called the opposition reflex. So if you have any tension on the leash, the opposition reflex will kick in. So it's not like the dog is pulling you on purpose, but you gave it no choice, all right? So if you consciously relax the leash, there is nothing for the dog to pull against, all right? So let's say you've done that and the dog still pulls. What do? Then I will stand still, okay? The other way is to stand still. The dog's pulling, I will stand still. I will hold the leash by my side, okay? I normally tell my clients, owners, okay, hold the leash in your hands and then grab onto your shorts, okay? So that you're not giving any give, okay? Your arms are not moving, you hold onto your shorts and the dog pulls. After a while, he will release the tension, okay? The moment he releases tension, he said, good. You can call him to you, you can treat him, or you can take one step forward. All right, and what will happen is the dog will probably start pulling again, and then you stop, okay? But you are teaching the dog, whenever there's tension on the leash puppy, we are staying still. We are not moving, okay? They catch on very fast. They will like, oh, okay, I will make sure there's no tension, and then we can move ahead. And they will start focusing on your pace, all right? If you find that you get a bit frustrated dealing with that, another way to do with it is to walk around in circles. All right, if the dog's pulling, you do a turnabout and you walk the other way, okay? And the dog like, okay, so he's behind you, right? So once he's behind you, because he's got to catch up with you and you are ready with a treat on the left, on your pace, he catches up with you, he gets a treat, all right? If he shoots past you, you turn around and you go back the direction you came from, and the puppy like, what the heck? Okay, you do that a couple of times, you can see like, I've covered this section of pavement already, okay? And they will try their best. You can actually literally see they're trying their best to not run ahead, all right? And they know that when they are by your side, this is what we call the zone of reinforcement. This is where the good things happen. It's like, oh, so like Neo the Dalmatian, if you saw, he knows that when he's around my side, wow, he gets chicken, because that was his breakfast. He gets chicken. So he's like, I'm just going to hang around here because this is where the good things happen. Yeah. Don't let it go on too long before you try to fix this, because the more they practice this behavior, the harder it is to break. So let's say you have a dog that's 3 years old and it's been pulling for 3 years. It's not going to be fixed in one day, okay? It's going to take some time. So best thing is, if you have a puppy, do what I did with the puppies, right? Get them to follow you off leash, and then they'll want to follow you and you won't have that issue, okay? A lot of patience, but it works, and it's quite fun to do.
So it's interesting that, if the more we go, you see some themes emerging, and the sort of things that are always there. And one of the things I see that you keep saying is the time that it takes to teach an animal something, right? And I think
Yes.
that's we at the SPC have seen as well when we deal with some of the cases that we do,
Yeah.
is people have, I think, unrealistic expectations about, they bring a dog home and they think that within, a few days, the dog should be toilet trained, it should learn how to eat, it should be fantastic, don't bite the furniture, no mouthing, nothing, perfect dog in a week.
Yeah.
But no such thing.
Oh, I wish, no, or they say, oh, we've got a trainer in, but after 6 lessons, he's still like this. I was like, yeah, because, if you haven't practiced it, I mean, it's not a computer, right? I wish I could just like type in, upload, done. No, it takes a lot of practice. It's a living thing, and it's got, its own likes, own dislikes, own thoughts. And it takes time, and there's so many different factors as well. The owner's handling as well plays a big part. And oftentimes I see it's a bit of a culture clash. Sometimes he say, oh, but I tell him to sit, but he doesn't want to sit. He's so stubborn, he's so rebellious, It's because maybe he doesn't understand what you're trying to say, and maybe today you're very happy, you tell him to sit, and then the next day you're upset, he sit. Then he's like, what are you talking about? It takes time. It takes time. For humans, they say it takes about like 14 or is it 21 days to get a new habit. And that's for us, for adults, right? What more for a dog, which has, I think, the mental capacity of a 3-year-old, like a border collie, the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. It's not going to take 21 days. It's going to take a little bit longer.
I think that's an excellent analogy, right? And it can be, if we can be honest, and I'll be honest, a lot of my bad habits, more than 21 days later, and I'm still stuck with them. It's not easy to change behavior and habits. And I think maybe we do a bit of self-reflection ourselves and think about some of the things that we want to change. And for some of us, how long we've been working on those things, and the fact that we struggle still, maybe we, month on month or year on year, there's some improvement. Why would you then expect that with a dog or any other animal, you do something in a minute or in a day, and that, that habit is solved? I don't think that's how it works, right?
Yeah, I know. And I say enjoy the journey, actually. Part of training, right? I enjoy training the dogs, the journey, actually not as much as the end product. The end product is nice, okay, but the journey to get there, and each dog I see and each owner handler dog I see, the pair, they work so differently, and just trying to find a way to get both sides to work and cooperate. That's very interesting for me. It's quite fun. And when they get onto something that works, you can see both the owner and the dog, they enjoy each other's company, and basically that's all we want. We are not looking for robot dogs.
Yeah, and that's what keeping a pet is about. So there's this interesting question. I'm going to ask you and get your view on it. It's got to do a little bit with sort of the philosophy of keeping pets and training an animal. So the question says, I don't want to use food to train my dog. He must listen to me because I am the owner. How do I get him to obey me?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. The thing is, like, we go to work, right? We go to work and we expect to get paid for work. We don't go to work for free. And it's the same thing. I don't expect my dog to do things for me because I say so. It's really, we are past the era of masters and slaves anymore. And I think the dogs, they deserve, actually not just dogs, all animals, they deserve the respect as well. And it's a cooperation. And I think mankind, not men, mankind, we've kind of like run the planet to the ground already, because we've taken so many liberties with it and we've done so many terrible things. I think it's time to go back to looking at the relationship with kindness, right? This is a living thing. They have just as much right to be here as us, and we should respect their wishes. I don't have to use food. Maybe, okay, you feel like you don't use food because it's messy, but you can use other things. You can use toys, you can use good experiences, but it should be a give and take. It shouldn't be you taking all the time, all right? So let's say the dog really wants to go out for a walk, fine. You don't have to use food. Puppy, sit, and then we'll go for a walk. So it's an exchange. You do something for me, I do something for you. And cooperation is always a lot better than coercion. You don't want to be coerced into something, so neither will your dog.
I couldn't have put it better. Okay, let's get back. There's still plenty of questions. With no way we'll get through everything. So the participants, you can upvote questions that you want us to try to get to. Okay, so I'll try to go as well using the voting system here. So okay, let's get back. So this one again, quite a number of votes there. Is the question is about sort of goodbye ritual when you're leaving the home. Okay, so if you're leaving the dog at home alone, is there some goodbye ritual that we can adopt to make it easier for the dog?
I see. Okay. Don't make it too big a deal. All right. Actually, if I know I'm going to be gone for a large part of the day, I make sure the dog has got his walks, his exercise, his meals already, everything's all set. And then when it's time to go, I will leave him with a stuffed toy. Not stuffed toy as in soft toy, but a stuffed interactive Kong toy with food inside. So he's got something to keep him occupied. Some dogs get a bit anxious when they're left alone. So having something to distract the dog while you leave is usually the first few minutes, and then after that they settle down. So if you give him like one of those interactive toys with stuffed food inside, and they'll be busy working it out, and they just kind of like, oh, okay, they forget that you're gone, and it feels good for them to be working for something, and then they'll just go to sleep after that. What I'll also do is I'll leave like the radio or the TV on. And if you have really anxious dogs, or especially if just a newly adopted dog and he's still a bit not very sure of the routine, I will consider using something called Adaptil, or they have those pheromones, or even Rescue Remedy, which is a little bit more holistic, just to give it a little bit more comfort. Okay, and I would also have it confined in a space where it's safe. Dogs actually like to be in a cottage, not a mansion. All right. So if you leave a little puppy to have free run of the apartment, that is a disaster of, that's waiting to happen. One, potty training and chewing will happen. And the other one, just imagine this little puppy is so small and the house is so big, it's not very secure. It won't have that feeling of security. So I would like to put it in a playpen when I'm gone, with its bed, or it's a little crate, so it can go in and out as it please. And when I do leave, I just put it in and I just go. I don't make a big fuss and say, oh, mommy's coming back later, be good. No, I just put, it's very matter of fact, just put down the treat, the food, the dog, and out I go. Okay. If your dog is very, very anxious, then I'll keep the initial separation very, very short first. Maybe just like 5 minutes and then come back, or just go for a drink and then come back. And then just when you come back, how you come back is actually just as important as how you leave. When you come back, don't go straight for the puppies. Oh, puppy, I miss you. Okay, that is just, oh my goodness. All right. Because what you have taught the dog is that you are the most important, that your arrival and departure is something that's terrible. Whereas you want them to know that if I'm not here, it's okay. Look, you get this really yummy toy. Okay, so when you come back, just go to your room, settle your stuff, change your clothes. Then you let the dog out, okay? And by then he'll kind of like calm down already. So that's how you prevent separation anxiety from the dogs.
So you mentioned crate, right? Crate training. I think that can be a very useful tool. It's a place the animal can feel safe and comfortable, so that they don't feel afraid there's sort of some fearful stimuli out there for them. So there's actually a question about, now the puppy actually hates being in the playpen. I think playpen, crate, I think they are trying to use it in the same way. The puppy would rather roam about the house. How do I encourage him to stay inside the playpen more? Maybe the question is, how do I, or we can look at it from the point of view, how do I have the puppy be more comfortable in that space? Of course, they shouldn't be confined there the whole day. That's not what we are saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No. Yeah.
So that they never want to come out. The point is to, I'll let you explain that, but I just want to clarify that we're not talking about confining an animal in a small space so that they're happy there all the time. How would you get a puppy used to a crate or a playpen?
Yeah, so you want the crate to be where all the good things happen. Please do not just shut the dog in and just leave it there until this, that is just not the way to do it, all right? So I would do it gradually. So let's say if it's a new puppy or a new dog, or let's say this dog doesn't like the crate already, right? Doesn't like the playpen. I would just randomly throw treats inside. I won't even force the dog to go in. I'll just leave the gate open. There'll be a couple of treats hidden inside, and the dog will go in and smell, oh, this is a nice place to hang out. I go in and I see this wonderful things, okay? So one, there's two ways. One, you feed its meals, its daily meals in the crate or in the playpen, okay? And the other one, you have the element of surprise, where you just have the food inside and then it just goes in and it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. And then what you'll find is the dog, because dogs are quite opportunistic, when they have discovered a treat inside there randomly, the next day they're going to try again to see, oh, maybe today there's another yummy treat inside. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. The other way is the regular feeding of using the food. So if, let's say, your dog is already very wary of, had a bad experience with the crate, how do you do that? So let's say this is the crate. Let me give an example. Okay, so let's say this is a crate, right? I will put the food bowl just in front of here. Okay, just in front of the entrance of the crate. And I'll just get the dog used to eating from here. And when it's okay with this, I'll move it in slowly. Sorry, it's my dog. I'll move it in slowly further in as well. And I will just go. I will put the food bowl down and then I will leave. I will not coax the dog in at all. It was just there. And when the dog is ready to go in, he will go in. So this is probably the easiest way without having to do any active training. So I like very efficient things. I'm quite lazy, so I do things where I can do the minimal but get the most results, all right? So usually I just put the foot down and I go. And dog is, you eat or you don't eat, that is your issue, but the food is there for 15 minutes. If you're not going to eat, I'm going to take it away. And then with time, they will start eating and then they'll get used to being around the crate because that's where the good things happen. And then soon, they will go into the crate to wait for their food instead of you putting the food inside before they go in.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, quite a number of questions on, and some are same, some are a little bit different. I try to lump them all together again. It's all about puppy biting. Okay, so a fair number of questions saying my puppy is biting my hands, my puppy is nipping, my puppy is biting items, my puppy is biting leashes and harnesses. Here, there's one that says the puppy bites things on the floor, such as tissue paper, and when they try to extract that from the animals, the puppy will angrily try to bite their fingers and growl.
Oh, yes.
How do they retrieve the item? And another one is, how do I stop a 4-month-old puppy from biting me? He bites me every time I pet him. So just basically the whole puppy bite.
Oh, puppies, yeah.
Succinctly, thank you.
Puppies bite. I mean, that's what they do. But what we're trying to do is actually not to prevent it. What we want to do is to redirect it. They have no choice. I mean, they're just like babies. Okay, they're using their their mouth to explore the world. So I don't want to punish them for doing that. But what my job as an owner, or as a pet guardian, or as a mommy, is to make sure that they are chewing on the right things. So if you don't leave slippers around, don't leave your hair ties around, don't leave anything that you like lying around, because the puppy will pick it up and he will chew. And we have to be the adult in the situation. We have to put our things away. Okay, so we can't expect the dog to know that, oh, this is your precious shoes, I cannot chew. They won't know that. So you need to manage the environment, okay? And then you have to make sure that you have a lot of appropriate chew toys lying around. It's no use to the dog if it's all in a box in the corner and then the dog is in the other room. No puppy that I know of and no kid that I know of will go to the toy box to get the chew when they say, oh, my mouth is a bit itchy, okay? It has to be within easy reach. And this is where the playpen is very useful. When you have a puppy, make sure they don't have full run of the house, because unless you're willing to spend every minute watching them, they are better off in a safe, confined environment where they can, it's what I call the yes space. There is nothing they can do inside that they can do any wrong, okay? So everything in the playpen is for them. So they can chew, they can shred, they can do whatever they like. This is their yes space. The reason I call it yes space, I don't want to have to tell the dog no or tell the dog what not to do, because when you do that, the dog sometimes okay, I'm trying to say, become a bit defensive, for lack of a better term. So hence the tissue problem, right? The dog picks up the tissue and they're trying to grab the tissue from the dog all the time. The first couple of times the puppy will be like, okay, I'll let you take it because I'm just a little puppy. And you did it often enough, they're going to start fighting back. They're going to start growling and they're going to start nipping, because every single time you take something away from the dog, you're not giving anything back in return. I mean, look, if I keep taking something from you all the time, right, you are eventually going to be like, hey, what the heck? Okay, it's not on. If by chance the dog does take something that you really need to have back, do an exchange. Okay, always do an exchange, either with a higher value treat or with another similar toy. Okay, when it comes to tissue, puppies are very playful. Okay, I mean, that's why they are very playful. They go after leaves and sticks and tissue. Oftentimes, I will just see, but I will not react. Okay, and they will chew a bit and then they'll spit it out because it doesn't taste very good. And then that's the end of it. All right, because they've discovered, oh, nothing. But what owners do sometimes, when they see the dog pick up, let's say a leaf or a tissue or something, they get a bit worried, and rightly so. And what happens? Oh no, puppy, come, they'll take it up from you. And what the puppies learn is that every time I pick up something, oh, I get your attention. All right, we get to play keep away. We get to play. You start to pay attention to me. I get to play keep away, and then we get into a fun wrestling match. Okay, to the dog, the puppy is fun wrestling match, right? And so it will keep doing it all the time. But most times, most cases, when they chew the leaf, they will just spit it right out. But because we keep unknowingly reinforcing this behavior, the dog will just keep doing it again and again. Okay, now, having said that, make sure your puppies and your dogs, actually puppies as in under a year old, have access to appropriate chew toys. They need a variety of chew toys. Don't just buy like one chew toy and say, he has a chew toy, here's one bone. Okay, it has many shapes and sizes. All right, different shapes and sizes, different textures. It should be like 4 or 5 lying all over the floor, so that whenever he feels like, I need to chew because he has the munchies, he will go grab one. Okay. The other one is also stuffed interactive toys. Those are really useful. I want the puppies to be addicted to stuffed toys, stuffed interactive toys, because then they learn that, oh, this is what I use to chew, and they will leave all your other stuff alone. And it's very rewarding for them, because when they chew, they get food, they get fed, and because they get physically tired, and they also get mentally tired because they have to work to get the food out. And I like tired puppies, then they sleep.
Exactly. Fantastic. Good. So we've got about 8 minutes left. We'll, like I said, get through as many as we can, but like I apologize to those whose questions we don't get to. I see a number of questions about sort of something, there's some association with puppy health as well. A lot of puppy related questions to do with health, eating of, whether it's right to go for long walks and how long the walk can be. So you also have a fantastic opportunity tomorrow. We've got a speaker who is a vet. Tomorrow is in our webinar series. The details will be posted somewhere soon. It's already on our sites, but we'll post it in here as well later on. So tomorrow as well, you can come and you can ask some of those puppy related questions, especially if it's got to do with health as well. Dr. Chow, our veterinarian, will be there to answer your questions. Okay, so for those ones, we won't take them today just because there's so many other direct training related questions. Angie, there's a whole bunch of questions that's got to do with fearful, shy, nervous dogs. The questions and these are genuine legitimate concerns, of the dog either being afraid to go out of the home. There's one here that says, my dog avoids all humans except my wife and I. How can I make him comfortable with humans? Then for some of the other questions, the dog is afraid of other dogs. The dog is afraid of items and various things. So I think, again, if you could address the whole sort of some general advice for a dog that's fearful of different stimuli, how does someone approach that?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. This will actually. Yeah. Yeah. Fear, anxiety is. It takes a whole day for me to explain and describe. Just very general one. But the very first one I would actually have you guys do is actually make sure the dog has got a complete health check first. Sometimes when they're not feeling too good, but they can't tell you what's going on. But the baseline, the very first thing is to have it cleared. Make sure there's nothing going on, sometimes with arthritis or some pains or aches, or they're just not feeling well. Okay, that's the very first thing that I would do. The other thing for fearful dogs and shy dogs is, here's a general advice would be, go at the dog's pace. Don't force it. Don't try to intrude on the dog's space. Give the dog a chance to approach you instead. Don't force your presence on the dog. Sometimes what I see when dogs are a bit more standoffish, and owners or people think that, oh, I want to make friends with the dog. This is where something called the consent test is super important. I want to check that the dog actually wants to interact with me. If the dog doesn't want to interact with me, I leave it as that. I don't want to force the dog to want to say hi to me. Okay, the consent test is basically, I wait for the dog to come to me. If it comes to me, great. I'm not even going to stick my hand out. The dog can smell you just fine. Okay, there's no need to, because sometimes they feel like I must put a hand in front of the dog's nose, the dog can smell me, right? The dog can smell you, okay? We've got very, very good, powerful noses. If he wants to say hi, he say hi, but I'm not going to face the dog. And for fearful dogs, sometimes I will turn sideways, and I will also make myself lower, smaller, okay? So I don't look as scary. Most times for some of the skittish dogs, that's enough, okay? But if it's very, very fearful, I will just leave it. I won't approach it. And it's a bit too much. I would say best to consult a positive reinforcement trainer to help you with this, or someone who can help modify behavior, because many things can go wrong, and I don't want anybody to be hurt. When dogs are very frightened and very fearful, sometimes we do things that we think will make the dog feel better, but actually it makes it worse. And then they have no choice but to lash out. So I want to avoid that as much as possible. Consult a dog training professional if you have really big issues with this. But in general, if you see a fearful dog, leave the dog alone. Don't approach the dog. Let the dog come to you. Okay. Unless, of course, everyone's in danger, then you have no choice. But as much as possible, give the dog time and space. Let the dog make the first move. And usually that is sufficient, because then they trust that, oh, this person, this human is not going to intrude in my space. And when they feel safe and secure with that, they will start making strides towards you. The other thing also for the vets, for some dogs that are really very stressed and they cannot step out of the house, again, seek a vet specialized in behavior. Sometimes these dogs need a little bit more help than, let's say, adaptable and pheromones. They might need medication. So you need to check with the vet on that. But in a few cases, yeah.
Thank you, Angie. So we're reaching the end. I'm going to end off with one last question that I think is probably going to be on the minds of a lot of people. So obviously, we have managed to cover a fair bit of things today, but of course, there's so much more, right? And there's going to be things that are going to crop up now and then. Some things you can probably get advice, through webinars like this. You can also find some fantastic resources online as well. You go to our Teach with Kindness website. We do have a list of very good resources there. You get some of your solutions there. But of course, at certain points, there's going to be things that you cannot do yourself. And I think, the SPCA, and I think Angie will agree with us, we strongly recommend that, for every dog guardian, that you actually engage a professional dog trainer to start you off. Even you should engage one also when you first get a puppy. But if you haven't, and your dog's a few years old, it's never too late to engage somebody to assist with some of the challenges they are facing, or to help you along with the journey of training and teaching your dog. Maybe you want to do some interesting obedience things with your dog. The professional trainer can assist you. So with regard to that, Angie, I'm going to ask you about now how does someone then go about finding a humane trainer? So if everybody, you check out our social media, you go to our Teach with Kindness website, you will find out why we're actually running this initiative, why we're having this webinar series as well. We're very concerned that there are some trainers out there who are using abusive, brutal methods against dogs. There's a story we are relating in the campaign in 2017 where a trainer hung with a leash. So the dog's on a choke chain, and the trainer grabs the dog's leash, hangs the dog, so the dog's all four legs are off the ground. That's what we mean as hanging. And then strangles the dog with his bare hands, chokes the dog and strangles the dog to the dog turns blue. The dog splattered some blood as well. Horrible methods, and these have been going on for many years. And there are trainers out there who will harm your pets through some of their very outdated methods, not based on science and modern understanding of dog behavior and psychology. So with that whole spiel, basically, how do we avoid those trainers, and how do you recommend finding a humane trainer that will be right for your dog?
Yeah, it was quite shocking to know that these things still go on. I mean, when I first started puppy love like 20 years ago, I mean, that was quite the norm. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're still doing it now. Luckily, we have a lot more trainers, a lot of people who are a lot more aware of the science and of dog behavior. They know learning theory, they know how to use positive reinforcement, more humane methods, and really, coercion and force and punishment physical punishment has got no place in dog training. Children training too, I mean, the cane is completely outdated. I would recommend check if the trainer has signed the Teach with Kindness pledge. Okay, that's one quick, easy way. The other one, check the qualifications of the trainer as well. Any trainer that has got a CPDT or who have continuing education with the IAABC, okay, there's a whole bunch of alphabets, okay, but these are well-known international dog behavior organizations where they run a lot of courses, and it's not easy to get accredited by either of these organizations. Check that your trainer is constantly upgrading with new courses. He has got, and it's not just doing it because I say so, okay? Actively ask your trainer if the dog doesn't do what you want him to do, if he doesn't do what is right, what do you do, okay? And obviously when the dog is doing something right, we reward it. If the dog is doing something wrong or it doesn't do as asked, what is the trainer going to do? This is very important, because if they say, oh, I'm going to hit the dog, I'm going to punish the dog, then alarm bells should ring, because the science is there is no need to resort to harsh punishment, okay? Just first step will be just check the SPCA website, and secondly, make sure that the trainer has got professional qualifications. It's not a self-taught trainer. It belongs to a few well-known organizations. That should normally be sufficient, and also get referrals if you can. People speak to past clients as well, because sometimes, of course, it's easy to say, oh, I do this, but what they actually do in real life could be a bit different. So you need to try and speak to past clients. That would be probably a big clue to whether or not this trainer is good for you. There are many different types of trainers. Ask around. Don't be afraid to ask around. There are different price points as well. There are different. There are a few humane trainers as well that we're quite close to, but we all have our different styles. So if, let's say, you train with me, it's like, oh no, I think I can't deal with her. Her style is not like me. Don't give up, okay? It's not positive reinforcement training that is the issue. It's probably just the style, or probably, maybe the owners just don't click. So ask around. There's a lot of positive reinforcement humane trainers now. We are so lucky. I mean, it's so much better than it was just 2 decades ago.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I just want to end off with this quote, which is relevant to what we're talking about. This is a quote from Dr. Ian Dunbar, and look him up, and he's listed in our reference list as well. You can find out more about him. Basically, he's talking about the electric shock collar, but this can be actually applied to all aversives, including choke chains, prong collars, and it's about trainers who use these devices. And he says, quote, to use shock as an effective dog training method, you will need, number one, a thorough understanding of canine behavior, a thorough understanding of learning theory, impeccable timing. And if you have those three things, you don't need a shock collar. You know, from our experience, the people who resort to using these devices, and if you just really listen to that quote, what he's saying is that they actually just don't know better, right? They didn't know a better way to go about. They don't understand enough about learning theory. They're not kept up to date with the developments in animal behavior and psychology, and they resort to those devices because that's all they know, and they didn't have an alternative. So Angie, I think, has given some fantastic advice on how to go about finding a humane trainer. There are some in Singapore. You have to be very careful where you go. Unfortunately, there's no one place you can find a concrete list of these trainers, not yet at least. But on our website, Teach with Kindness, you'll find a general guide as well on how to find a humane trainer. All right, we've just gone over 12:30. It leads me to thank, and again, I apologize for those whose questions we haven't got to. I encourage you to come for our next few sessions. We have a fair few coming up in the next few weeks. And we'll, of course, try to host more sessions. I think, Angie, if you can come back again, I think we'll be very, very happy to have you in the session. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and joining us today. And of course, thank Angie for taking the time out.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you all at our session tomorrow morning. Have a great weekend.